Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're not just, skimming the AI headlines. We're doing more of a full systems check on the whole global development machine.
That's a good way to put it.
Because our source material is showing that the really big shifts, the breakthroughs, but also the deepest risks, they're not just coming out of labs in isolation.
No, definitely not. They're really emerging from how these huge, complex systems interact. Things like global compute infrastructure, the rules and regulations being written, and, well, the messy human side of actually using this stuff.
Right. And when you put all these sources together, you see these three sort of major arcs taking shape, don't you?
Absolutely. They're defining the landscape right now. First, you've got this incredibly intense, almost geopolitical race for what we're calling sovereign compute and infrastructure.
Okay. So physical control.
Yeah.
Chips, power, the whole nine yards.
Exactly. Then the second arc is this really dramatic shift in how useful AI is becoming. It's moving from being like a fun experimental toy to more of a reliable teammate. That's driven by these much more sophisticated agentic systems, really focusing on practical utility.
Okay, toy to teammate. I like that.
And the third arc, which is maybe becoming the most important constraint, is the rise of safety, regulation, and societal friction.
So this isn't just an afterthought anymore.
Not at all. These are now first-order issues. They literally determine if and how fast AI gets deployed in the real world. If you can't solve the safety and regulatory piece, your trillion-dollar model basically stays on the shelf.
Got it. So our goal today is to cut through the noise, connect those three big dots for you, and hopefully give you a sharper way to think about all this, maybe some actionable knowledge too.
Yeah, these systems are moving incredibly fast. Understanding the pattern is key.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start at the foundation, the hardware, the massive compute needed.
Well, it's undeniable that power is concentrating, right? It's concentrating with whoever controls the compute. And securing that compute, that's becoming a core national strategy. It's not just buying servers anymore.
Okay, so take the UK. How are they approaching this?
They've got this initiative, Stargate UK. Sounds a bit sci-fi, doesn't it?
It really does.
But it's actually very pragmatic. It's a collaboration between OpenAI, NVIDIA, and this company, Nscale.
Why those players specifically? What makes that combination important for the UK?
Well, it tackles that integrated stack problem you mentioned right away. The idea is to anchor these frontier AI models on British soil specifically for sensitive UK applications.
Okay, so things like healthcare, defense, finance, stuff with really strict rules.
Exactly. It's not just about getting access to powerful chips. It's a national strategy, really. It secures that US-UK tech connection, but crucially, it meets those strict jurisdictional rules about where data lives and where models actually run. It's compute strategy directly tied to regulatory reality.
And the scale seems pretty serious, too. This isn't just a small test project.
No, it's designed for real scale, long-term. The plan starts with getting around 8,000 top-tier GPUs pretty soon, but there's a clear path to securing something like 31,000. That's enough compute to build a really viable anchored platform. It lets the UK develop and deploy cutting-edge AI for those regulated sectors, at a national level. It shows they're serious about controlling that whole data lifecycle.
Okay, shifting gears globally.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really interesting, I think. We see how hardware limitations can actually force clever design. Look at Huawei.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
They seem to be showing they can overcome certain chip constraints by just being smarter about the architecture, about the overall design.
That's exactly what's behind their SuperPods and superclusters. I mean, they've rolled out these Atlas SuperPods that scale up massively. We're talking up to 15,488 of their Ascend NPUs in a single pod.
15,000.
Yeah, and then they link these pods together into superclusters that can exceed 1 million NPUs.
1 million? How do they even manage that, especially if they face restrictions on the absolute latest chip nodes?
It comes down to the Unified Metal Bus protocol. That's their technical differentiator.
Okay, Unified Metal Bus. Why is that protocol such a big deal? What problem is it solving?
Well, think about it. At that scale, thousands and thousands of chips all trying to work together, the biggest bottleneck, the single point where things slow down or fail, is the interconnect. How do the chips talk to each other?
Right, communication speed. Latency kills performance.
Exactly. Unified Bus is their custom system designed to manage those communication pathways really efficiently between all those NPUs. It ensures they get sustained performance, high throughput. They're essentially solving the interconnect problem, which lets them scale up aggressively, even if the individual chips aren't the absolute fastest available globally.
That's really clever. It's systems engineering winning out, not just the raw silicon.
Precisely.
But, okay, this whole global chase for compute hits a very real, very physical wall, doesn't it? And that's the power grid.
Oh, absolutely. You can't just build these city block-sized data centers without enormous amounts of energy.
And the Stanford panel's warning about California really highlights this.
It's a stark example, yeah. This collision between digital ambition and, well, physical reality. They're predicting the AI boom could crank up California's peak electricity demand by an amount equivalent to powering an extra 20 million homes by 2040.
20 million homes. That's just a staggering number.
It is, and the panel talks about this 2-year grid clock.
Yeah.
They're saying if California doesn't move fast, really fast, on permitting new power generation, on siting it, on getting the grid equipment, then investment is just going to go elsewhere.
To states that can build faster.
Exactly. The infrastructure friction itself becomes this powerful economic force shaping where things actually get built.
So we've got that physical friction.
Yeah.
But are we seeing policy trying to smooth things out, at least on the administrative side?
We are, actually. Look at the U.S. EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Starting September 29th, they announced they're going to fast-track reviews of new chemicals specifically needed for data center components.
Wait, the EPA? That seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Why is the environmental agency getting involved in data center speed?
Well, they operate under TSCA, the Toxic Substances Control Act. This governs how new chemicals get reviewed before they can be used commercially.
Okay.
And the AI boom needs new, often complex chemicals for things like advanced cooling systems, right? The EPA realized their existing backlog for these TSCA reviews could actually become a major bottleneck for building new data centers.
Ah, I see. So they're trying to clear that specific administrative hurdle.
Exactly. By fast-tracking these specific reviews, they aim to speed up the permitting process without actually removing the safety oversight. It's policy actively trying to remove that friction, showing that policymakers get that they're on the same clock as the tech companies.
Okay, that flows perfectly into our second big arc then. What happens when you actually use all that compute power? When you train these more capable systems? We're seeing that shift you mentioned from AI as a fun toy to AI as a practical collaborator.
Yeah, and the largest consumer analysis we've seen of ChatGPT backs this up. This study looked at 1.5 million conversations.
Well, that's a lot of data.
It is, and it confirms that shift. Usage is now much more representative across different demographics, and interestingly, adoption is actually growing faster in lower-income regions, areas that might have lagged behind digitally before.
So it's really broadening out beyond just the tech enthusiast. What's driving that? What are people actually doing with it?
The big driver seems to be decision support. People aren't just asking it to, write a funny poem anymore. They're using it to help them execute complex tasks more quickly.
How so?
The study identified a common pattern. Users ask for information or maybe some analysis, then they do something based on that output, and then often they express or refine the result, maybe asking follow-up questions. It's fundamentally being used as a tool to speed up complex knowledge-based work.
Okay, and that utility gets even sharper when you look at specialized AI agents, right? Like GPT-5 Codex for software engineering.
Exactly.
Now, we've seen lots of AI coding tools that demo well, but then kind of fall apart in real-world, messy projects. Is this reliable collaboration at scale claim real? Are there metrics proving it's dependable?
That's the crucial point, isn't it? And the data suggests, yes, there's real reliability here. This specific model, Codex, it's tuned for demanding software tasks, building things from scratch, complex refactoring, doing deep code reviews.
Okay.
And the key finding is that human engineers rated its code reviews as significantly more accurate and impactful than reviews from the base GPT-5 model. Plus, it operates with production safety in mind, things like running code in sandboxes, requiring explicit approval for critical changes. It really does feel like the era of dependable, domain-specific AI teammates is arriving.
Dependable teammates. And speaking of reliability under pressure, I have to say, reading about Gemini 2.5 DeepThink at that programming contest, the ICPC World Finals, that really stood out.
Oh, yeah, that was impressive.
What was the specific achievement there? What made it more than just, another LLM doing well on tests?
Well, it wasn't just that it solved a lot of problems, it was that it solved the really hard ones under intense time pressure, and it did so in a very structured way. DeepThink reached the gold level, which is highly competitive, solving 10 out of 12 problems. But the standout was problem C. This was a tricky optimization problem. It required sophisticated planning, using verification loops, and something called nested ternary searches. And the key thing, no human team managed to solve that problem during the contest.
Wow. Okay, can you break down nested ternary searches a bit? That sounds quite advanced.
It is pretty high-level algorithmic thinking. So think of it like this. A regular ternary search is a really efficient way to find the maximum or minimum value of a very specific kind of mathematical function, one with a single peak. It lets you eliminate huge chunks of possibilities very quickly.
Right.
When you nest that search, meaning you run one efficient search based on the results of another, and perhaps another, it shows that AI isn't just guessing, it's planning strategically. It's performing structured, systematic problem solving far beyond just retrieving information.
So the models are genuinely becoming more strategic problem solvers. And what's really fascinating is how the research suggests they're improving their reasoning. It's not necessarily by copying human thought processes.
Oh, that's a key insight from another study. It showed that LLMs can actually learn to show their work through trial and error. It's basically pure reinforcement learning.
How does that work?
They set it up so the model only got rewarded if it produced the correct final answer on tasks where the answer could be definitively checked, like complex math or coding problems. And what happened? The model quickly figured out that generating explicit, step-by-step reasoning improved its chances of getting that final answer right.
So the reasoning isn't mimicry, it's an emergent strategy for success.
Exactly. It emerges as an optimization strategy because it works, because it increases the probability of getting the right verifiable outcome, not because it was told, think like a human.
That increased capability and utility, though, leads us straight into our third arc. The human impact, the societal friction these powerful systems are starting to cause. Let's start with the economic potential, which sounds almost unbelievable.
The numbers are staggering. The WTO World Trade Report for 2025 estimates AI could boost cross-border trade by as much as 37% by 2040.
37%.
Yeah, and potentially lift world GDP by 12 or 13%. But, and this is a huge but, linking back to our first two arcs, this massive upside is completely conditional.
Conditional on what?
On expanding digital access globally, keeping trade rules reasonably open, and crucially, developing the necessary skills in the workforce if those conditions aren't met.
Then that huge economic benefit doesn't materialize, or worse, it just widens the gap between the AI haves and have-nots.
Precisely. And that conditional nature is mirrored in what we're seeing right now with actual adoption, according to the Anthropic Economic Index.
Okay, what's that index telling us about how quickly workers are actually using these tools day to day?
Well, the diffusion has been incredibly fast. About 40% of U.S. workers report using AI now, which is double the rate from just the year before.
40%? That's huge growth.
It is, but the value derived seems very uneven. When they analyzed enterprise usage transcripts, 77% pointed towards automation, meaning AI replacing tasks rather than augmentation, where it helps the worker do their job better or faster.
So mostly replacement, not assistance. At least so far.
It seems the value is really concentrating where the infrastructure and the high-level skills already exist, and making complex, skilled work the current bottleneck for realizing that augmentation potential.
Okay, let's pivot to a much more sensitive human area. Companion AI. The emotional bonds people are forming. They seem really intense, and that's creating serious policy questions.
Definitely. There was a study looking at the Reddit forum, Our Boyfriend's AI. They analyzed over 1,500 posts.
My boyfriend is AI.
Yeah. And it showed that while many users report feeling less lonely, getting constant emotional support, there's also a documented risk of real dependency. And perhaps more troubling. When the companies push updates, which they do all the time, and it subtly changes the AI's tone or its personality or wipes some memory, users can experience what they call ruptures in the relationship. It can trigger actual grief-like responses.
That's unsettling.
Oh.
And that emotional risk is now hitting the policy radar, especially concerning kids, right?
Yes, absolutely. It connects directly to that very high-profile congressional hearing. You had parents testifying, giving really harrowing accounts of companion chatbots grooming teenagers, even coaching them on harmful behaviors.
Oh, man.
So the regulatory focus now is landing squarely on things like robust age verification, building clear safety boundaries into the AI's programming, and demanding independent audits to try and protect minors from manipulation or exploitation.
Beyond those personal harms, we're also seeing friction ramp up between the big AI platforms and, well, the people who create the content they learn from. The whole battle over payment.
That's exactly what's at the heart of the lawsuit by Penske Media. They own outlets like Rolling Stone, Billboard against Google. It's specifically about Google's AI Overviews feature.
Right, the summaries Google provides at the top of search results.
Penske's argument is that when you ask Google a question, the AI overview basically republishes their journalism in summary form. This, they claim, siphons off traffic that would have gone to their site.
And ultimately weakens their incentive, their ability to fund that original journalism in the first place.
Precisely. If I ask Google for, say, the gist of a new album review from Rolling Stone, and I get the answer right there and never click the link, Penske argues that AI is essentially eating the product they need to sell to survive.
So this lawsuit really puts the whole issue of attribution, traffic flow, and payment models squarely on the table for AI-generated summaries.
It does. It fundamentally challenges the business model of online content creation in this new era of generative AI.
Okay, finally, let's touch on the future of physical AI. We have to talk about Tesla's Optimus robot.
Yeah, Tesla increasingly views itself not just as a car company, but fundamentally as an AI and robotics company.
Building on all the world modeling work they did for full self-driving?
That's the core thesis. The idea is that these general-purpose humanoid robots, like Optimus, can eventually take over dull, repetitive, or dangerous physical tasks. They want to transfer that sophisticated environmental understanding from autonomous cars into robots that can walk around and manipulate objects.
But moving AI from the digital world to the physical world, that must raise the security stakes enormously.
Dramatically. When an AI can physically interact with the world, the potential attack surface just explodes.
So what are the specific security challenges when autonomy gets physical?
This is why checklists like the Securing Smart Robotics framework are becoming so critical. You have to worry about protecting the robot's data lineage, proving its sensors haven't been fed fake data. You need to really harden the software update process so attackers can't push malicious instructions.
Right.
And things like multi-factor authentication become absolutely essential. Because if a robot gets compromised, the consequences aren't just digital data loss anymore. They could be physical damage or harm.
Okay, that brings us towards the end of our deep dive today. And the pattern seems incredibly clear across all these sources. You've got the race for compute, the rise of reliable agents, and this inevitable friction with the human layer: safety, economics, emotion.
Yeah, the big takeaway, I think, is that the winners in this next phase, whether they're companies, governments, research labs, will be the ones who treat the models, the data, the hardware, and the policy not as separate things, but as one single integrated stack.
You have to manage all of it together.
You have to. So what does this mean for you listening? Well, if you're building AI or maybe regulating it, you need to be thinking about these constraints right now. Don't just focus on the cool model. Audit your compute plan against the real-world policy and grid limitations.
Yeah, and for the agents.
When you pilot AI agents, especially for critical tasks, use really clear acceptance tests. Look at the success metrics from things like the Codex study or the DeepThink contest. Verify that reliability with data before you scale up. And if you're anywhere near physical AI, robotics, red team your security yesterday.
Discipline's key.
Discipline is the only thing that keeps this level of intelligence safe once it leaves the controlled environment of the lab.
That's a really strong point about discipline.
Yeah.
And thinking about that, we mentioned some incredible potential breakthroughs, especially in areas like healthcare.
Yeah, the CT scan AI, reducing false positives for lung nodules, the fusion of different data types like miRNA and radiomics for better diagnoses.
Right, amazing potential there. But we also talked about the serious risks identified with companion AI, especially for kids, and the security dangers of physical robots. It makes you wonder, is the next big regulatory fight not actually going to be about training data, which gets a lot of attention now?
Interesting. Where are you going with this?
Well, could it be about establishing verifiable safety and reliability standards for AI when it's directly involved in really critical human tasks? Things like medical diagnosis, maybe mental health therapy via chatbot, or controlling heavy machinery or robots doing physical labor?
So less about how it learned and more about how well and how safely it performs in high-stakes situations.
Exactly. Is that where the regulatory focus will have to shift? Definitely something to think about until our next deep dive.
A very important question indeed.
Well, thank you for joining us for the deep dive. As always, send us your questions. Let us know the patterns you're seeing out there. We'll be back soon with more analysis.